because some Paul's blow is going in my head. Veins popping out and all that. As my wife reminds me, you're not as young as you. So, I'm glad to be here with you all this morning. And I hope it's okay that I tell you that I'm troubled. All right? And I'm not quite sure how to put my finger on it or what's bothering me. But somewhere between Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, these strange blessings, somewhere within our divided and angry country, and maybe also added into that reading and remembering about International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which just took place on Friday. And I found something inside me unsettled. And, I want to explain a little bit of why the Holocaust thing, and I talked a little bit about this in Sunday school this morning, why that bothers me. I don't know how many of you know this, but Luther was Hitler's favorite theologian. The Nazis quoted Luther to justify some of the things that they did to the Jews. It's a pretty heavy weight to bear. The Lutheran Church was also complicit in Germany. A very, very small minority stood against what was happening, but the greatest percentage of us went along with it, aided it, and abetted it. And so, the Lutheran Church has history, and it's hard sometimes. Add to that, I thought it was the challenge maybe of Jesus' first sermon. I mean, this is Jesus' first address right out of the gate, right? You know, he's just called his disciples. He's just set out on his own. And, I don't know about any of the rest of you, but as you look through these blessings don't seem a whole lot like blessings. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be poor in spirit. I don't know about you, but I don't want to mourn. I don't want to be those things. Aren't we supposed to want to be happy, rich, and safe? Some would say that this is the scandal of the gospel, all right? That this is the difficulty of following Jesus. People would say, you are challenged by Jesus to put others before yourself and to sacrifice for another's well-being. And yet, in my humble experience, this idea of sacrifice, this idea of giving up and helping others is far from difficult and uncommon for most people that I've met. If I were to take a poll of this room, how many of you could tell me a story about a time when you willingly sacrificed for someone else's happiness? Anybody out there? I should see more married people's hands up. And I'd be willing to say that many of us, when we talk about those experiences, when we talk about those experiences of helping, of caring, of serving, I would bet that most of us would say that it felt good, somewhere inside of us, to do so, to help that person who was in need. And it would make sense because there's actually been scientific studies done that show that your happy juice in your brain, endorphins, all right, it gets released when you give. All right, when you give money away to charity, they've proven it. It makes you feel good. When you help somebody out, you feel good. I think that's part of the reason why kids like helping when they're little. A lot of times you're a kid, I want to help, because it makes us feel good. This is probably why whenever we hold an event at church where we are serving or helping someone, like when we build a house down in West Virginia, when we raise money to fight cancer, when we're packing food boxes for the food bank, when we're cooking a meal for homeless men and women down at the city mission. Those events are better attended than any of our other programs. Better attended than our fellowship programs, better attended than our education programs. I believe that we like being helpful. It feels good. So where is the radicalness in Jesus' words from Matthew's gospel this morning? If we like helping, is it really a challenge what he tells us? And I wonder if it can be illustrated in the horrific events of the Holocaust that we paused to remember on Friday. 5.7 million Jewish people murdered by Nazi Germany. In college, as a history major, I studied this tragedy over several semesters, and the question came up over and over again, how could this happen? How could human beings do these awful things to other human beings? And even worse, how could people sit and watch and not intervene and help? Especially if our brains are designed to feel good when we help other people, right? How do we just sit back and do nothing? Well, the scientists tell us that there's a hitch when it comes to our generous gene that makes us feel good. Scientists have found that we are hardwired, our brains are hardwired to help others, to be compassionate. As long as we identify that person in need as part of our family, part of our group, part of our tribe. Basically, when we see someone who needs help as one of us, we want to help. When we view someone as an outsider, we are not as motivated to help and may even be willing to hurt that person. How many of us know the voyage of the ship to St. Louis before the outbreak of World War II? 937 German Jews, or mostly German Jews. I'm going to give you an abbreviated history. If you want to look on the National Holocaust Museum in D.C., they have the full story. Hopefully I will get the essence of the story right. 937 German Jews booked passage to Cuba to escape Hitler and the Nazis in 1939. Cuba decided that they didn't want the refugees because these foreigners, they were coming out of the Great Depression too, and they didn't want to compete for scarce jobs with them. So they turned the ship away. Passengers are freaking out. They don't want to be sent back to Hitler. So they reach out for refuge in the United States. They cable the Democratic President of the United States, Franklin Roosevelt, and they ask for safety. They ask for protection. He never replies. They sailed so close to the U.S. that they could see the lights of Miami before turning back to Europe. A third of those passengers perished in Nazi death camps. How could we do something like that? We're the good guys, right? Well, we were coming out of the Great Depression, jobs were scarce, and the people on the boat were from a different country. They spoke a different language, they followed a different religion. They were not us. And we were able to ignore their suffering. Are we in such a different place today? Is this the difficulty that we face in our nation and around the world today? Do we see people, human beings, as others rather than brothers? Have we forgotten that we belong to each other? And perhaps this is the radicalness of the Sermon on the Mount that seeks to push, challenge, and unsettle us. Last week we learned that almost all of Jesus' ministry takes place on the margins of Israel, all right, on the borders. There would have been a great mixture of races, ethnicities, and religions. When Jesus looks out and sees the crowd this morning, he's seeing observant Jews. He's seeing Roman soldiers, Samaritans, Gentiles, men, women, young, old, rich, poor, everything in between. And which ones did he teach? Which ones did he heal? Which ones did he feed? All of them. For me, this is the scandal of Jesus' Beatitudes. True confession time. I like helping. It feels good, right? I enjoy serving. It feels good. When I approve of that person's values and character who is in need. That's when I really like to help. When that person is like me. When that person appreciates my help. Does Jesus qualify who we should or shouldn't show mercy to? No. Jesus gives no prerequisites or qualifications. And this is the terribly hard challenge that love incarnate presents to all of us. My meek protest is, that sounds really hard, Jesus. And it even sounds maybe a bit dangerous. And Jesus replies, "Blessed are you when people revile you, when they persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." And so we are invited to recognize the divine image in others, both the ones who look, act, think like us, and those who don't. We cannot remain looking at each other as others. Find someone who's different than you. Find someone this week who's a different race, who's a different religion, or from, God forbid, a different political party. Don't have a discussion. Care for them. Pray for them. Serve them. What Jesus preached and taught 2,000 years ago changed the world forever. How will it change us?